It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast where we like to dive into comeback stories, and many times that leads us into recovery stories from substances. Today, we've got a professional on the side of things when it comes to recovery and addiction and substances, but this is not just any professional. This is Dr. Sarah Nasir, and she has this genuine intrigue about her. I'm so excited, although I get to ask the questions in this particular conversation. So we are going to have a good time, and we're going to follow her lead about her professional career, why she got involved with helping people in addiction and in recovery. But that's not all that she does. So we're gonna look under the hood here and figure this all out. But first, Dr. Sarah, I would love for you to just give us a quick introduction. How are you doing? Who you are? Where are you hailing from? And how are you on this beautiful day?
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I was feeling a little flushed right there. It was so beautiful and kind. Easy answer first. I'm coming and joining you guys from California today, SoCal in the Santa Barbara area. It's not a beautiful sunny day today, a little cloudy, a little drizzly, but we can live
Interesting.
with it in the summer. Not too bad.
Right, right. You only have like a handful of them out there, anyways. You've got your own cup of disasters, that's for sure. But today we'll take a little bit of some clouds, but it's all good.
No, it's a little slice of heaven, I think, on earth, like in regards to weather, because when the rest of the world is like really, really hot, we're here wearing our jackets. And then when folks are like drowning in snow and becoming ice cream, we are like actually really, really hot down here
That's awesome. Becoming
by
ice cream.
emotion.
Well, all right. Then this is how we start this show out. And typically what I understand, what I've grown to what I've learned is that people that are in this space, whether it's become out of necessity or they've done it because of some driving need or passion, there's typically a catalyst. There's some type of a reason why anybody would get into such a challenge of helping people with addiction and substances. And so I'd like to know that about you. What was that circumstance for you that made such a difficult choice of helping people that need it?
I get this question on every show I go on and talk about addiction. Like, how did I end up in this as in the first place as a osteopathic doctor, family medicine doctor, and now an addiction medicine subspecialist? Why am I doing this? Do I have a history of substance abuse myself? The quick answer to that is no. I'm blessed to not have the history of having to go through this traumatic and very damaging, incident myself. But obviously, everybody in one way or another, whether they like to admit it or not, they themselves or somebody around them have experienced substance use. For me, I grew up around tobacco. Every man in my family smoked when I was growing up. And then when I moved to this country, one of the most legal and easily accessible drugs is alcohol in next to tobacco. So even though these are our easily available substances, people think maybe it's safe or they don't even think about it. The marketing has been done just so perfectly. You don't even think about it. But this, like everybody has been touched by it. And now we have the legal marijuana, which is another chemical being put inside the body that doesn't belong inside, and it impacts your body's ability to do its job, and that pushes it into the disease of addiction. Now, why addiction itself? I think for me, what I like to say, it feels like my waking up moment was in residency with one of the attendings. And then after I came to the realization that I was also harboring huge stigma and huge amount of stereotyping negative thoughts against the people who are abusing or using substances, I felt really guilty. And I think it changed the way that I approach these patients, approach the concept of addiction afterwards. It was kind of like a way of me expiating my negative feelings. I just felt really guilty. And then, and I'll tell you more about exactly what happened there. I think that's what led me to it. And then the satisfaction I get of helping somebody climb out of this abyss that where it doesn't affect only the person who's using, it destroys the family around them. You keep moving forward, it destroys the community around them. And big enough, it impacts society overall. There's a whole cascade of things that happen. The person who's buying the drugs that are being created in the opium when it was heroin era, now we're in fentanyl era. It was
Right.
being grown in China, in Afghanistan area, and then it would be brought in into South America. It would climb up, and then you have all these individuals who are trying to find safety and trying to come into the America from the South America, and they are putting their lives in danger. We have the huge drug cartel out there, and then it goes from there all the way up to Canada, right? So there's
Right.
a huge thing, and then the individuals here who are getting it, they get hooked, and then they run out of money because these things get expensive. It I was doing the math the other day with my patients. They will be using somewhere anywhere from a gram to 3 grams of fentanyl, and a gram of fentanyl is like $80. And so if you have to sustain yourself on just a gram of fentanyl for 30 days, that is 80 times 30 is what, 200 at least? Or and
Yeah.
if you're using more than that, multiply it. I think I was doing the math. I feel like I'm not doing the math right now properly, but it comes out to like almost $1,000 even. And who's walking around in this category without a job, not showing up for their studies, and then maybe they do have a job because sometimes they target the kids of the rich folks or
Right.
somebody who actually has a job. And then when they run out of money, they either turn to selling the substances themselves, selling themselves. That's another can of trauma and PTSD right there. Then you start to have crimes rising in the area, just everything. You lose your
Right.
sense of autonomy. This is a
I want
very
to.
destructive process.
I want to touch a little bit on what you had mentioned about maybe some of that guilt and some of the stigma being
Yeah.
carried as a physician and as a doctor. I remember experiencing some of that. I remember going to an emergency room and I had pancreatitis, which, pancreatitis is a very common side effect of too much alcohol. And some people can get pancreatitis in an acute kind of a situation by just over consuming alcohol for a weekend. You can give yourself pancreatitis. And mine obviously was chronic and I was drinking entirely too much and too often daily, almost all day every day. And I remember being in those emergency rooms and I remember the doctors like scoffing at me because it was on my own accord. I had put myself in there on my own choices. And I'm aware of that. However, I think that as a professional and being on the side of having a due diligence or having a responsibility of care, there's just really it's not the time or place to be shaming people, especially somebody who's aware. It wasn't as if I wasn't aware. I was well aware that I was in there because of my own actions. And I remember those moments and there were countless moments. But I applaud you for being the type of professional to acknowledge that and do something about it. Because let's be honest, there's plenty of people out there who are not. They're probably still carrying on such a just a bad way. That's a bad way of doing business, And I think doctors could get away with it a lot of times, and it's just not right. And so I applaud you for doing that. Now, you have clearly seen on a large economic scale of the consequences of the substance use in our country, and not just our country, across several countries,
Global. It's a global phenomena. It's a global.
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's not just an epidemic, it's a pandemic. I just think we haven't labeled it pandemic, but obviously we call the opioid epidemic. There was an epidemic in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And coming back to that stigma, that stigma absolutely exists in healthcare. It exists everywhere. And going back to like my journey, my arc, my hero's journey, I remember like the things that come to my mind very vividly is the first time that comes to mind is I was in my third year of medical school. We had to do these things called rotation, where we go in different specialties and learn about what we do, because I'm doing family medicine later. But this is, as medical student, you go everywhere. You see all the different doctors to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Growing up never stops.
I love that. That's true. I am still Peter Pan over here, so it's like
I believe you even have the green behind you to match that. All you need is the green cap. I think it's a beret. So going to 3rd year of medical school, I'm in my OB rotation. I'm following my attending who is an obstetrician. We just had a baby delivered. And while she's doing her paperwork, I'm hanging out in the nursery. There are some nurses and there's just one baby in there. And the baby is going through what is called neonatal abstinence syndrome, which is where if the baby is exposed to opioids inside the uterus, inside the womb, when the baby comes out, it's not being exposed to the opioid anymore through the mother's bloodstream. So now the baby goes into withdrawal, just like an adult would go into withdrawal with not getting the hit after a certain amount of time. And this is as painful for the baby as it is for the adults. And so the baby is very irritated, very fussy, just crying, high pitched, very unhappy. And the nurses were there just like feeling for the baby because when the nurses show up for these babies, we put our heart and soul. I mean, yes, I can see like how we get very disconnected from the person that we're treating over time because we just see so much. We have this like tolerance that develops, so it takes a lot to make us feel sometimes.
right,
And that's one of the reasons why you probably felt like it was easy for the physicians, the healthcare providers in the space to be like, oh, you're just an alcoholic. You're not a person who's struggling with the disease. So, coming back to this, the OB nurses, especially, they're very protective of their mamas and the babies. And so, when they have this baby in their hand in the nursery, they were standing there like saying like, "Oh, how could the mom be so horrible that she used? Didn't she think about the baby? She shouldn't have used." And at that time, me having those same thoughts, I'm like, "Yeah, how horrible." Like I was holding the baby, giving the nurses a relief. So that's my first memory that comes to life. The second one that comes to life is fast forward to ER in my residency program. This is like almost at the end of my residency. And we had this situation where our city had a doctor who would prescribe a lot of opioids because at that time, like the pendulum has not swung that way, but it was starting to. And for years, he had practiced this. And when we were there, like finally the pendulum had started to swing. Additionally, where I was doing my rotation, we were sitting in the heroin belt that went from Mexico all the way up to Canada. This was in New York. So it was like the perfect storm. There's a perfect supply of heroin, and there's what's called a pill mill in town. And so our program, what the physician was in our program, he lost his license. And so everybody came together to write a 30-day opioid prescription to all his patients and just discharge them. It's like, good luck, you're on your own. I felt kind of guilty doing it, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I'm doing hero's work. I'm ridding the city of like this bad thing. But then the patients were so, like, pleading. It's like, "Where are we gonna go? Nobody's gonna help us." At that time, it didn't click. And then, when I was doing, admissions at night for ER, these patients would then come back to the ER to get, the opioids so they wouldn't go into withdrawal. And, like, I was there and I was admitting this one lady, like, the first night, and I knew what was happening. And I said, "We're not giving you any opioids." So she just left AMA very angry at me because I prevented her from getting that treatment. She came back another night and I was also on that same night shift and I went to admit her and then she got like really angry at me. She's like, "I'm going to stick people on you. I know people who are going to take care of you." She was like yelling at me. So it was kind of scary, but I'm really grateful that the attending kind of stood up. It's like, "Not in this ER. You don't talk to us that way. Like, please leave." But now I can understand why she was that way. She was desperate. She's like, "I'm gonna go on the street and use heroin, and that's gonna be on you guys." At that time, it's like, it's your choice, your body. You choose what to put in it, which is true to many extent. As doctors, we can only do so much for our patients,
right.
right? So that was the next thing. And then comes the final one, which is I'm now in my clinic at the still in residency. And there's this one young man, and he has opioid use disorder. I think he uses heroin, and he was trying to go on Vivitrol, which is an antagonist, meaning if it's kind of like a Narcan, it's like being on a long term Narcan. And if you take this medicine while you have the opioids inside your body, one, the medicine's not going to work. And two, it's going to make you feel nasty because it's going to do precipitated withdrawal. So to start the
Yeah,
Vivitrol,
I've taken the Vivitrol. I've taken Vivitrol
yeah.
before.
Is it
I don't
okay for you?
remember it doing much though, to be honest with you. I don't remember, like, doing it, but
It's not
anyway.
very effective. It just blocks the receptors and it just doesn't let you get high. That's it. Like it doesn't stabilize you much. It just blocks. Like it's like putting a lock on it. But you have to be off of opiates for like 5 days before you can start it. And this guy just could not, like, just like 1 or 2 days before he would use and then would be like, "Why not, man? Why not?" Cuz we're trying to get him from pill to the shots so then he wouldn't have to worry about it as much. And he would come in with his dad, who is like, I think he probably looked older than he actually was because of all the stress. And I felt for the dad that, how could this guy be just so horrible that he doesn't think about his dad, who's just aging and dying because of all the grief and stress? Like, why can't he just do that? So I go to my attending as I'm reporting the patient to him. I'm telling him, like, hey, Dr. Alves, like, how could this be? And I have his permission to use his name. And this credit of why I'm here is thanks to Dr. Alves. So I tell him exactly that, like, how horrible is this that this man cannot just stop using for just a little bit, and does he not see the state of his father, etc. And then Dr. Alves told me, well, Sarah, you do realize that addiction changes the brain completely, that it is a disease. It is not just a choice. You know, like when you take these drugs for a long period of time, your brain physically changes. So it's not just about this is this person's choice. And here's, I think, why I really relate to the folks who struggle with addiction, because I think they have faced a lot of preconceived notions and experienced negative impacts because of it. And one of the things that really impacted me, and now it's one of my life's work that I'm grateful that I'm working on, I was bullied in residency by my senior, people who were supposed to be teaching me, mentoring me. And that broke me. I lost my dream residency program because of that. And I felt like the system didn't do a due diligence to like verify if the claims that were created against me were real, or how to help me if it was real, how to come out of it. So that's a different case for another day, but that has led me to start a movement called Bullying in Medicine with another doctor I connected with. She experienced bullying as an international medical graduate as well. And the system is not in place to take care of the people who are like pushed to the bottom. And I think a lot of times people who are struggling with addiction are in that situation where people already think you're not good enough. People thought I was stupid. I'm not good enough. I can't understand or learn enough. And these patients are being told again and again, you're just an addict. You can't do it. So I think I connected with this group in that way, that I know what it feels like to be perceived in a wrong way and to basically be tossed aside as a failure. Like, you can't do it, so just get out of here. So the thing is, I think it feels like I'm going to help these people and I'm going to help myself and I'm going to help others in the process from what I learned. So I think this is why I feel so passionate about this population. And I
Right.
tell you what, the more I do it, it is so gratifying. I think individuals who overcome addiction are some of the most amazing people that I've met. It takes a lot for one person to go from the ground to the peak of a mountain. It is another thing to climb out of the abyss and then climb.
Yeah, and that's where this show originally was about recovery journeys and people that have gotten sober. And since then, it's kind of veered or kind of changed a little bit. It's developed into leaning into comeback stories. And this is most certainly one of them. And I think that's what we want as a people is that success stories are cool. They're great.
Yeah,
They're great. And in fact,
they
I'll
should be
just lightly
celebrated. Success
right.
stories should be celebrated.
It's like, but I use this example because, like, I watched the documentary about Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And I got done with it, and I was like, "Well, that was cool." And my friend was like, "Man, you didn't think it was all that great?" I'm like, "The guy really never sucked. He never really hit the bottom. What, he got number 2 in a bodybuilding competition? That's not that bad." I'm like, I said, "I know I wanna root for the person who's getting bullied and the person who knows what it's like to be at the bottom and the person who is so desperate that they didn't have a choice. Those are the people that I wanna root for. Those are the stories I want to hear." And so like it has turned into this thing where comeback stories I realize are what we are all about. And so you have an excellent point is that yes, like from being at ground, sea level and then getting up to the top of the mountain, very good. That's an excellent thing. It's an amazing thing to strive for. But there's just something special about a person who's just at like the Mariana Trench. I mean, they're near the center of the earth and they somehow get out of that. That's truly what I think like moves us forward as people. And so as a result of this new, well, maybe not new, but this developed passion of yours, right? And in learning because, man, what you said about it not being a choice, I I understand that. And it's an excellent point to make. So, how did you start kind of leaning into it? How did it develop? And, of course, I wanna talk about the Zanara care and what you're doing, but I guess there was a time where you started putting all of these pieces together.
It's with time. And I think it just all clicked in 2022 for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I finished residency, then I went on to work and fulfill my National Health Service Corps scholarship requirements, which was something they give out to doctors who are working with the underserved populations to pay for the medical education. In exchange, once you graduate, finish residency, you have to go work in underserved populations. So, for the first job I had, it was in the DC, worked with underserved there, huge homeless population, huge drug addiction problems, and it was a huge African American community. And there was that, social inequality, like very visible. And so that's where I got certified to do the buprenorphine prescriptions. And
So hold on a second. Slow down a little bit. What is that?
yeah,
What is that? I feel like whenever I hear medicines, I feel like I've taken them at some point, but hey,
Suboxone.
it's Suboxone? Okay, got
It's
it. Okay.
Suboxone. Yes,
Got it,
yes,
got it,
yes,
got it.
yes. I'll use both names. So, if people are zoning in and out like I do, they will be able to easily catch on. So, I was able to prescribe Suboxone from my primary care doctor practice. So that's where it got started. And then we moved to California. And then I continued working for the underserved population to finish my health service core requirements. And, I continued that here. The population here is more like undocumented and lower income Caucasian and a little bit more diverse, largely Hispanic and Caucasian population. So it was amazing to see like the two different types of patient population, but I'll save that for another time. And then
So you were in DC. In DC, it's mostly African American, and then when you go to the West Coast, and it looks different. However, they're all struggling with the same thing.
it's there. It's there. People don't talk about it. Rather, when I was here, I was able to help the Hispanic community who also has a huge alcohol problem. More so than the opioid problem. But now that I work in the methadone treatment center, these are like, the outpatient treatment program. People come. I'm full time working in one of these. And it's, as I was saying, like, I see a lot of men. I'm grateful that they're doing this. A lot of times they're coming because of the justice system is enforcing it, but and a lot of them are because they're tired of being enslaved by these chemicals that are not what they like, like the lifestyle that they're living, they're not happy with. And then also there are women, lots of trauma stories. And so being able to communicate with these individuals, the human behind all of this, the disease, like I think that I'm an empath, so I like to learn about people's stories. And as I hear it, it helped me develop over time myself. I think it gave me strength also because when you see the same pattern developing where there is this incident, trauma event that happens, the person is not ready, like they don't have the coping mechanisms, protective mechanisms to, respond to it. And then things just go downhill and then they just hit rock bottom. And then the difference it can make if they have a support system, and it comes in many different forms to climb up. And one of the support system is medicine. And I definitely am a very strong advocate for taking medicine when you need it. And I'm a very strong opponent of taking a medicine when you don't need it. So my approach and philosophy to practicing medicine is that we need to, like, the art of medicine is finding the balance between the harming and the healing. Every medicine has a toxic side effect. Every medicine has a range where it's not effective. And there's this window, it's called a therapeutic window. It's an actual, like, pharmaceutical term. You have to just stay there. Don't go above. And if you don't need it, don't take it because it messes with your body. So it's all about restoring balance inside the body and around the life. And so, working with these patients, the things that I came to realize is that we need to restore body and the body chemistry, because the body is a chemical bag itself. Constant chemical reactions happening. The fact that we're hearing each other, we're seeing, we're hearing, I got my fingers in the other ways. I'm sure, like, when people do substances, those things do change. So yeah, coming back, like, when you're the way you hear, the way you see, there's a chemical reaction happening at every step. And when you put in chemicals that don't belong in the body at a concentration that it doesn't belong in there, the body changes its regular mechanisms. It'll disable a lot of the functions to keep you alive. If you have too much fluid in your body, you don't breathe, and the body doesn't want that. It wants you to be alive. So when you don't have these chemicals there, your body is in this deficit because it has shut down all of these natural processes. And that's where your body does not thrive. And so it gives you those alerts, those alarms that, in the form of those withdrawal symptoms, runny nose, runny bowels, everything, because it's not where it needs to be to optimize. It's not optimal situation for living. And it's giving you all these signals. And so if you don't come in and artificially close that gap, either with recreational use or prescriptive medicine, which is where people like me come in. We give only what's necessary versus recreation folks take more than they need, and that worsens that chemical gap, and it just worsens, right? So I believe, and I'm a strong advocate for medicine in these situations. Just stabilize your body, get it out of that catastrophic situation, and then the body is intelligent enough to do what it needs. And this is the osteopathic philosophy I was trained on. That the body is a unit of mind, body, and spirit, and it has its systems. You give the body what it needs to restore its balance, and the body has the ability to heal itself. So I operate from those philosophies. And then, so that's where I come in with the medicine, and that's to pharmaceutically, artificially stabilize the body. And then the working with the patients with addiction helped me develop the transcendent philosophies, which is now where I have come in, and I have what I call the 6 dimensions. It takes the 3 dimensions from the osteopathic philosophy: body, mind, and spirit. And then the 3 other I've added is the social, financial, and aspirational. And I believe if you can find homeostasis, balance in these 6 dimensions of you, you can become the movement that I'm calling and coined the term is a transcendent. You know,
Yeah.
once you have that stability, you have, just like in the body, once you have stability, now you can build on it to become that super version of yourself, that Arnold Schwarzenegger version that your body can become. You can
Right.
tap in and grow. So, as a doctor, I felt like I could only help with the body and the mind, medicine wise, advice wise. And now, as a coach, I feel I can also come in and help folks plug into these other dimensions. Because what I've
Sure.
found is that individuals who lack a sense of purpose fall more easily to this. And purpose is one of the pillars of becoming a transcendent.
That's you're speaking my language. I think I love all of that, right? I love the 6 pillars, and purpose is so much of it.
Dimensions, 4
I
pillars.
mentioned okay, I'm sorry. I
No,
got it
no
backwards
worries.
like you're
No
seeing
worries.
and you're hearing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's 6 dimensions and 4 pillars. Alright.
Yes.
And purpose is I also well, let me ask you this. How do you feel pursuit lines up with with what you're doing? And I say that openly that maybe to you it's synonymous, right? Purpose and pursuit. But I feel like the word pursuit is, it implies that they're moving you're moving toward a purpose. So I guess my question is like, how do you feel maybe like the journey or the pursuit how is that involved in everything that maybe you're working?
Yeah. Let me try and answer it this way. Maybe it will make sense. Because the word pursuit is a very active word. It's a very action-filled word. That's what comes to mind. The concern I have with it is that you can pursue something positive or you can pursue something negative. And this is why I was very careful about the words I chose. Let me tell you about the 4 pillars and I'll tie it back to the 6 dimensions and
Sure.
then maybe it will help make sense. The first pillar of becoming a transcendent is that you have to transcend your limits. And that means we can have preconceived notions, inner dialogues like the imposter syndrome, analysis paralysis, all those like self growth things that block us, those self blocks. You got to transcend them. You got to realize that I want to do better. And I use the word transcend here instead of pursuit
Man.
because you can transgress in the wrong direction. If you move in the wrong direction, pursuit in the wrong direction can become transgression. So I like to use the word transcend because transcend, you can only go higher. And to me, that's important, right? We don't want to move in the wrong direction. Next one is connection with your limitless soul. I believe we are souls, we're spiritual beings, and we have a limitlessness to us. And I believe when we go deeper into ourselves and we connect with ourselves, there's a compass inside of us that connects us to a higher power.
Yeah.
And so the more you go within and towards the core of who you are, at the core, we have a connection to a much, much higher power where our soul originates from. The third thing is the purpose. It is harness the power of purpose. And I believe that we were all created to do some very, very important work on earth with our lives, every single one of us. And when we walk away from that purpose, we walk away from the power. It's a recharge. I feel like purpose is a sun. It's like the sun that you have only one of these in the sky, and you know it's always going to come up. And as soon as you spot it, you know your directions if you have learned how to navigate. Even if you're in the darkest of storm, you know that the sun is going to come. You just got to hold on for the sky to clear. And it's not like the moon where it changes phases, where you don't know, is this a new moon or is this a dying moon? You know, I still have that issue. I can only identify the full moon. Beyond that, I don't know what part of. And the stars, there's thousands, millions of them out there. You have to, that's like the next level of navigation, like to know what the stars are. The sun, like, you don't need a lot of smarts to realize this is the sun. And it's the powerhouse. It powers you, it recharges your battery, it recharges plants, it can give life. I believe that's purpose. It recharges our soul. So the people who walk away from purpose, they start to have a decay in their cellular energy and they just go die. And then I have like whole other thing. These are the people who go and hurt other people because they get the only way they feel alive is through the adrenaline associated dopamine release. And so they become addicted to that way of lifestyle. So that's a whole different conversation.
Well,
And then
I wanna ask a quick question. Now, when you're saying purpose, are you addressing every person's very specific purpose or just purpose in general? I guess, are you saying that when people walk away from their own specific purpose. That's kind of like ignoring the sun. Am I getting that right?
Yes and yes.
All right.
Yes and
So, so because when you're saying like, the, I feel like there's like kind of a larger overarching purpose, right? Meaning like, almost like participating in purpose, right? And then when you're not participating in without any purpose at all, that's the ideal addict, right? Like there's nothing more selfish than that. Like you've just kind of detached from all purpose of anything. It's a very nihilistic kind of approach when a real addict, gets to that nothing else matters other than that substance. And so that's why I identify with that a little bit.
to me, it both sounds the same.
Sure.
Purpose is a spectrum. I think if you're focusing on just one moment, that instantaneous moment, you may have another purpose there to contribute to the rest of your purpose. But I think purpose is a spectrum, and we're all created for a good purpose. And even when you are down flat on your face, that may be the instantaneous purpose you're asking about. Even that moment has a purpose that adds to your larger purpose. And I believe every purpose, if you know how to navigate it, pushes you in the right direction. And that is towards the transcendent phase. We're gonna come back to this and I'll entertain this more. I don't want to like I want this is the last pillar. Let me elaborate,
Right. Right.
but open
I
up the
get
floor for
I'm
questions.
like a small child that wanders into the middle of a movie. So
I love
that's
it. I love it. Curiosity, as you said, is a gift, right? I'm quoting. So the fourth one is living a fulfilling life of design to create your legacy. It all like climaxes to legacy. And in the process, you get to live an adventure that is thrilling. And once you get to that stage, life becomes so exciting because life is an experience. And most of us are not experiencing it the right way, I think. And this has been my transformation and epiphany through this process is that once I have reached this phase of being of a transcendent, I love every moment of my life. I have learned how to take control of my time, my energy. I do everything what I do now because it makes me feel good. And that includes binging Netflix. That includes like taking a day off and just laying in bed all day. That includes being crazy busy, like juggling 6 things at a time and handling somebody else's chaos. I love it. Like, I will do so many things at once because like, this is making like, the more I do it, the more full I feel. I may feel tired. I no longer feel drained, and I've been in that situation, you know?
right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the four pillars. Transcend your limits, connect with your limitless soul, harness the power of your purpose, live a fulfilling and thrilling life of design and legacy.
Yeah. Well, how long? So 2022 is kind of when you began kind of putting this together? Is that when you started? Or was when you've used the word epiphany a few times. I guess how did this epiphany come to you?
Birthing a baby.
Yeah.
Nothing changes you like bringing another human being into the life, but it wasn't the moment I brought the baby into life or into the world. It was the chaos after it. I learned
Oh,
from chaos, I guess. I learned from the negativities. So I had C-section my last pregnancy, and it was so uncomfortable. I mean, I had a natural birth before, and that wasn't pleasant neither. But for some reason, this one was like very much more powerful. So this is like maybe 2 months late, or maybe like within a few weeks. I was extremely swollen because there's the pregnancy fluid that third spaces, which means it goes from your bloodstream into your soft tissue, like your muscles and stuff. And that's why you will often see like a woman after she gives birth, looks very bloated, very heavy. All that pregnancy fluid that the body gains, because our blood volume increases. It's not just that the blood flow increases, like the actual in our body also increases. And once the baby is out, the placenta is out, all that fluid goes into the third spaces, into the other soft tissue. And sometimes that means it goes into the lungs, it goes into the heart. So pregnancy is really dangerous. It's a
right.
miracle that we have humans and continue to move on. Yeah. If it was any other thing, a mass is growing inside of you and your weight fluctuates that fast, like, it would kill you. So, motherhood is a miracle. Women's bodies are, like, extra special to me. So, yeah, I was laying there, my feet were swollen. If I laid flat, I couldn't breathe. It felt like I had an elephant sitting on my chest. I had full-blown postpartum anxiety and depression, and part of it also, like, spiraled out of control. It's like, "Oh my gosh, the world is going to hell. The bees are dying. There's plastic in the food and the ocean. Global warming is happening. Everybody is killing everybody. Like, there's no sense of mercy and kindness, and I just brought another life into this world. And I never wanted to have it in the first place because I'm worried about what's gonna happen to them. Now what?" So, like, you're laying there, your body is hurting, you can't breathe, you can't sleep because, like, when do I have to nurse the baby again, etc. And then all of, like, all these ideas and stress just keep flowing through my body, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, God, you have to, like, either stop giving me ideas or you have to help me to do something with it. And I like to say, like, God never stopped giving me ideas. So I think that was my awakening. Like, right after that, somebody I really admired passed away. I never met him in life, but his influence, his impact was so immense. So that's when I awoke, and then things just started to fall in place. And then,
Hold on a second. Who was the person?
so this is a Muslim scholar. Like, his name is Muhammad Al Sharif. He was the founder of an education system that was like my oasis in college. It helped me learn so much about God, and a lot more. Like, I was able to develop religiously and spiritually, and I felt like I connected more with God because the way that he set up the system, it brought local scholars to your local area, and you were able to go and get an immense amount of knowledge. It was a significant impact that I realized after he died. Like, it meant a lot to me. Sometimes you realize things posthumously, and this was one of those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I will also vouch for parenthood. I have a 2-year-old son, and so quick question, that C-section, that last birth, how long ago was that?
That was 2022.
That was okay, same year, okay, alright, so
Yeah, yeah.
that was, and that was your 2nd child, right? And so
That
then
was
you
my
started.
2nd child. Yeah, yeah. This was the span of maybe 2 or 3 months, like, where,
Wow.
I had that, like, I can't breathe, and then, like, oh my gosh, somebody I looked up to died, and then I had my awakening.
I vouch for parenthood because I have a 2-year-old son, and everything has changed. My spirituality has changed. My view of everything is different, and I started to learn a few things, and one thing I could appreciate about yourself is that you chose parenthood. I have started to understand that not everybody is willing to embrace being a parent and what it all involves, and to my understanding, it is greatly influenced by our spirituality. And I feel so strongly that nothing has strengthened my spirituality, my outlook on life other than being a parent. And so I applaud you for that. That's very cool. And
Same to you.
so thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
I don't
do
think
want to know, like,
I was gonna say, I don't think we, appreciate parents enough, especially, like, from one parent to another, so it was really nice affirmation. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's Father's Day, like in 2 days. And I'm
Right,
still not
right,
good at
yeah.
it. I don't.
It's I don't think we ever will be. You just do your best.
Well, I want to know. So right now, how does it look like for you? What I mean, you're a person of many ideas, right? You're a entrepreneur. You've got, you're working with people in addictions, but you're also coaching them on the other end of their addictions, like what I call the better end of recovery. And so what does all that look like now? And how does somebody work with you, or what's the best way for them to learn more about what you do? And let me warn everybody, when you go and check out her site, which she's about to tell you about, like, she's not playing around, that God did not stop giving her ideas. There's there is so much. It's so awesome to have somebody so dedicated or moved to create. And so, anyways, let us know about that. What does that look like?
So, the website you're talking about is sarahnassir.com, and I as you said, like, I totally stepped into my calling and my purpose. And I feel like it's to ideate, to create, and to support others in doing the same. So if you want to work with me as a coach, which means anybody in the country can work with me on that, is Transcendent You. If you want to work with me as a doctor and you get like access to all six dimensions support, the physical, mental, like as with prescriptions and stuff. Right now, it's only in California and it's by telemedicine. I'm available to support you through Zenara Care, also restoring that balance chemically and inside with coaching sessions offered in the package because you just need to work with all aspects to recover. Individuals who have tried to quit multiple times and are just not able to do it, you may be a good match for me in that situation. And you can connect with me on zenaracare.com. And if you go to sarahnassir.com, it will lead you to everything basically. Yeah. And I have a ton more, but I don't want to bore you to death. It excites me, but I think it overwhelms people.
You could give everybody the high level, right? She's got podcasts, she's got books, she's got the, I mean, there's not a piece of media that she's not involved in. And I respect that. You know, I think it's good to lean into to that energy. You try to harness as much of it as you can, right? To create a legacy and to do the very best to make this world as good as we can make it for our little people, right? We got these little people, and I don't know what I'm going, I don't know what it's going to look like, in the future for them, but I can do my best to try to put a dent in it for good, right? So I think that's a noble cause. Well, I do want you, since you're like chock full of like nuggets of wisdom, I do want you to leave everybody with one piece, your one chosen little nugget of I guess wisdom, Dr. Sarah. Like, give us something to sign off on.
I guess one of the things that I've come to realize is, and I would love to leave it with everybody on it, is that when you choose greatness as your destination, you become a greatness in progress. So don't sell yourself short.
Love it. Well, that's absolutely beautiful. You have been absolutely beautiful on this call. You're such an amazing person, and I appreciate you very much.
I really appreciate you too, Ryan. Thank you for having me on this show. And it's been a pleasure talking with you. Like, you also have that amazing light personality. And I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing because I can only imagine how many people you're helping. Also, allowing people like me to share my message if it helps somebody. So, not only you are a lighthouse, right? You're a
Thank you.
lighthouse. You're illuminated yourself and you're spreading light to others. So that's amazing.
Well, I am susceptible to flattery, so thank you. You've given me a little bit of light to go on for the rest of the day.